I walked into my daughter's backyard and heard, "Why is he still alive?" The words came through the slats of the wooden gate like smoke, quiet, casual, like they were talking about a broken lawn chair. Then someone laughed, not loud, just sharp enough to cut. I was standing there with a glass dish in my hands, the kind you bring when you're trying to be part of something. A warm dessert, a peace offering. My fingers didn't shake. Not yet. I didn't turn around. I didn't retreat to my car. I pushed the gate open and walked straight into the string lights, the folding tables, the champagne bottles lined up for midnight, like I hadn't just heard my own family measure my life like an inconvenience. My name is Mark Dalton. I'm 71 years old, born and raised in America, and I didn't come to this New Year's Eve party to beg for a seat at the table. I came because I still believed my daughter loved me. But tell me, if you heard that about yourself, would you have stayed? And before I take you deeper into what happened next, where are you watching from? And what time is it for you right now? I want you to understand why I was even standing at that gate in the first place. Why a man hears something like that and still walks in with dessert, like a fool who believes in endings that tie up neatly. I wasn't always the kind of father who hovered around the edges of my daughter's life. I used to be the center of it, before the world got busy. Before priorities turned into calendars and, we'll circle back, became a family language. My wife, Linda, died 6 years ago. Cancer. The kind that doesn't care how many prayers you stack on top of it. After she was gone, the house got quiet in a way you can't explain to people who still have someone yelling from the other room. I sold most of what we didn't need. 2 plates instead of 8. 1 chair in the living room that faced the window. Simple. Clean. I told myself that's what moving forward looked like. And I kept telling myself one thing, over and over, like a rule that could hold me upright. Family is family. That belief cost me more than money, but let's start with the money. When Emily and Trevor bought their house, they didn't have enough for the down payment. Trevor had a good job on paper, but good job doesn't always mean good savings. Emily called me late one night, voice soft, careful, like she was already apologizing. "Dad, we're so close. We just need a little help to get over the line." I pulled $45,000 from my retirement account. Not a loan. Not pay me back when you can. I said the words every parent says when they're still trying to be the safety net. Just get started. That's what I'm here for. Trevor shook my hand like we were closing a deal. Emily hugged me like I'd saved her life. For a while, it felt like I had. After that came the little things that are never little. Watching the kids just for an hour that turned into whole weekends, fixing the leaking sink because Trevor was swamped, replacing a water heater because it's freezing and the kids need baths, patching drywall, mowing their back lawn, crawling under their porch to trap a raccoon because Trevor said he'd do it and then didn't. I did it because I knew how. I'd been a contractor most of my life. I built kitchens, framed additions, fixed problems people didn't want to deal with. And I kept receipts for everything. Not because I was petty, because that's how you survive in that line of work. You document. You keep paper. You don't rely on memory when money is involved. I also paid a couple bills temporarily. The kind of temporary that doesn't end unless you end it. An electricity bill 1 month. A car insurance payment another. Trevor always said, "I'll get you back." Like it was a casual thing between men. Emily would say, "Dad, you don't have to," while still letting me. I didn't keep score. I kept showing up. Then last spring, I slipped on my own front steps carrying groceries, went down hard. The ER doctor used the phrase, mini-stroke scare. Nothing confirmed, but enough to put fear in the room. Emily was at my house before the bruise on my shoulder turned yellow. She brought soup. She brought concern. She brought paperwork. "It's just for safety," she said, sliding it across my kitchen table. "A durable power of attorney, so if anything happens, we can handle things. Bills, doctors, whatever. No stress." I remember looking at her hands. My daughter's hands. The same hands I held when she learned to ride a bike. I signed it because that's what fathers do when their kids look at them like they're fragile. I signed it because I trusted her. And because I didn't want to be a burden. That's the part they don't tell you about getting older. It's not the aches. It's the way people start talking around you like you're already half gone. So, when Emily called 3 days before New Year's Eve and said, "Dad, we're doing a family reset," I didn't argue. "End the year right," she said. "Everyone's coming. I want us all together. No weirdness, just family. She said it like it was a gift, like she was inviting me back into something I'd never left. I said I'd be there. After we hung up, I went to my bedroom closet and opened the small fireproof safe. Inside was a folder I had not touched in a long time, thick, labeled in my handwriting, House Plulone. I didn't open it, not yet. I just stood there with my hand on it, feeling the weight of the past in a manila file and thinking how strange it is, how you can give people everything and still end up outside a gate, listening to your life being discussed like an inconvenience. I drove over to Emily's place with that folder still sitting in my safe like a pulse under locked steel. I didn't bring it. I told myself I was being dramatic. I told myself this was just a party. Instead, I brought what I always brought when I didn't know what else to bring. Something warm, something homemade, something that said, I'm still trying. A peach cobbler in a glass dish, still giving off heat through the towel in my hands. When I parked, the street was lined with cars like a wedding reception. Music thumped faintly from the backyard, bass heavy enough to rattle the air. I walked up the side gate, and that's when I heard it. Why is he still alive? And then the laugh. The thing about humiliation is it doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it's delivered like a casual observation, like weather, like you're not a person, just a problem that hasn't resolved itself yet. I stood there for one long second, cobbler warm against my palms, and then I did what pride and denial always taught me to do. I pushed the gate open. String lights were draped across the yard, like someone had tried to make it magical. Folding tables were set up with paper plates and plastic utensils. A cooler overflowing with beer and seltzers sat near the patio steps. Someone had a champagne tower going on a side table like it was a movie. And people. God, there were so many people. Cousins I hadn't seen in years. Trevor's buddies from work. Neighbors I'd never met. Kids running in packs, shrieking, chasing each other between chairs. I stepped in and waited for the normal thing. A glance, a smile, a, "Hey Mark." Anything that confirmed I hadn't turned into a ghost. Nothing. A few eyes flicked toward me and slid away. One man paused mid-conversation like he'd recognized me from a story he didn't want to be in, then turned his shoulder. Someone coughed. Someone laughed too loud at a joke that didn't land. Trevor was in full host mode, moving like a politician. He had a beer in one hand and his phone in the other, turning his body at angles that made him look bigger on camera. He was shaking hands, clapping backs, leaning into selfies. He saw me and didn't stop, just lifted his chin like I was a delivery guy he'd already tipped. Emily drifted over a moment later. She wore a sparkly top and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She looked past my shoulder first, like checking if I'd brought anyone with me, then finally landed on my face. "Oh, Dad," she said. "You made it. Made it. Like I'd crossed a finish line. Like I'd survived traffic and frailty and my own inconvenient existence." "I brought cobbler," I said, holding the dish out slightly, offering. She didn't reach for it, didn't even look at it. "That's nice," she said, and then glanced over my head again like she needed saving. "Just set it anywhere." No one stepped forward to take it. No one said, "Let me get that." So I carried it myself past the buffet table, past the cheese board that looked untouched, past the little sign that said, "Naive Vibes" in glitter letters. I found a spot near the far end of the table where nobody was standing and placed the dish down like I was setting a brick on a grave. When I turned back, Emily was already gone. Trevor kept working the crowd, now narrating into his phone. Okay, everyone, family only for a second," he shouted, waving people in like he was directing a commercial. "We gotta get the shot for midnight." I stood on the edge and watched. People clustered together, arms around shoulders, drinks raised, smiles polished. The kind of togetherness that looks perfect until you realize it's a circle designed to exclude. Ruby, my granddaughter, ran past me once, hair in a ponytail, laughing with a friend. She didn't look at me, not even a flicker. A younger kid clipped my knee and kept going. "Sorry," he yelled without turning. I found a folding chair and sat down at the far edge of the yard, near the cooler and the ice bin, because that was the only space left that wasn't already claimed by pairs and groups and inside jokes. The chair creaked under me. The cold from the cooler seeped up into the side of my leg. A speaker the size of a suitcase sat on the patio steps, blasting something fast and loud. Emily came over and adjusted it, then looked at me like she'd remembered I existed. "We put you over here," she said, light and cheerful, "so you won't be too close to the speakers." It sounded like care. It felt like placement. Like furniture. I nodded once. "Sure." She patted my shoulder, quick, almost a tap, and disappeared again. Time moved in loud fragments. People ate. People drank. People shouted stories over the music. Someone started a game with shot glasses. Trevor's friends cheered like they were at a bar, not a family backyard. And I sat there, smiling when someone's eyes accidentally met mine, pretending I was included because I was physically present. Trevor climbed onto a patio chair around 11:45 and raised his beer. All right, family first, he called. I just want to say, we're blessed, we're healthy, we're together, and we're going into this new year strong. He lifted his phone and rotated it slowly, filming faces like trophies. Look at this, he said, laughing. Look how blessed we are. The crowd clinked glasses and cheered. No one looked my way. That's when I noticed the side table near the sliding glass door, half hidden behind a stack of plastic cups. A manila envelope sat there, thick, official-looking. Next to it was a little metal stamp and a business card with bold letters across the top. Notary Public. My stomach tightened, not like fear, but like recognition. The contractor part of my brain, the part that reads fine print and watches hands, woke up. Emily appeared beside me again, like she'd been waiting for the right moment. She held out a drink, champagne in a plastic flute. For the toast, she said softly, sweet, almost tender, "Just relax tonight, Dad. No stress. We'll handle everything." I took the glass. I didn't drink it. And in that second, with the notary stamp sitting 10 feet away, like a loaded gun on a table, I finally understood what they wanted from me. Not my presence. My signature. I lifted the plastic flute like I was playing along. The champagne smelled sharp and sweet, bubbles climbing the sides like they were in a hurry. I took a small sip, just enough to wet my lips, and let it sit there for a second like I was tasting it. Then I swallowed almost nothing. It wasn't a heroic thing. It wasn't some spy movie moment. It was just instinct. The same instinct that makes a man stop talking when he feels the room shift. The same instinct that kept me alive on job sites when something didn't look right. Emily drifted away again, satisfied. I watched her move through the party, laughing in the right places, touching arms, smiling for photos. She looked like a daughter hosting her father's New Year. But the table with the manila envelope and the notary stamp sat there like a second heart beating under the celebration. Trevor's voice rose over the music. Hey, come here for a sec," he said, waving a small group toward the patio. Not everyone, just a few. People with that family decision look in their eyes, tight mouths, concerned eyebrows. Two of Trevor's friends, Emily's aunt, a neighbor couple, and a man I hadn't met yet, mid-40s, clean haircut, blazer in a backyard like he didn't sweat. Trevor spoke like he was briefing them, not gossiping. "So, you guys have noticed, right?" he said, lowering his voice, but not enough. "Dad's been confused lately." The word hit me harder than the insult behind the fence. Confused is a magic word. Confused is a lever. Confused is what people say when they want to take the wheel out of your hands without admitting they're stealing the car. Emily sighed, dramatic and practiced. "He fell last spring," she said. "The doctor said it could have been a mini-stroke. He's stubborn. He won't admit he needs help." Trevor nodded like he was carrying a burden. "We just want to protect him," he said. "Protect his assets. Make sure bills are handled. Keep him safe." The blazer guy murmured, "Of course," the way people do when they've already decided something for you. I sat on my folding chair, facing forward like I wasn't listening, like I was watching fireworks on TV. But my phone was in my shirt pocket, screen dark, voice memo running. I'd started recording the moment I heard that sentence behind the gate. Not because I planned anything, because when you've lived long enough, you learn that the truth doesn't matter unless it's captured. Trevor kept going. "It's not like we're trying to take anything," he said, hands up in a calming gesture. "We're just getting ahead of it, starting the year clean." Clean, that word again, like I was dirt. Emily laughed, light, like this was also reasonable. "It's honestly been stressful," she said. "I mean, sometimes I wonder why he's even still." She stopped herself. And then, like a replay of the moment that cracked me open, she said it again, clear as a bell through the noise. "Why is he still alive?" Trevor chuckled, not a full laugh, just that private, ugly amusement people share when they think no one else can hear it. Emily's voice dropped into something colder. "Because if he's still alive," she said, "we can't move forward. Move forward, not emotionally, not spiritually, financially." The words didn't make me flinch on the outside, but something in my chest went quiet, a deep, settling quiet. the kind that comes right before you stop hoping. I didn't look at them. I didn't stand up. I didn't announce myself. I just listened. The blazer guy, now that I was watching more carefully, glanced toward the side table, toward the envelope. "Is he aware of what he's signing?" he asked. Trevor shrugged. "He'll sign. He trusts Emily." Emily nodded once, like she'd earned that trust fair and square. "We're doing it tonight," she said. "The notary's here." "Notary." My eyes slid to the side table again, like my gaze had its own gravity. The stamp sat there, the business card, and the manila envelope, thick and tidy, waiting like a trap with paperwork teeth. I stood up slowly, cobbler dish long forgotten, and walked toward the table like I was going to grab another cup. Nobody stopped me. Nobody watched me. That was the advantage of being invisible. When I got close enough, I tilted the envelope just enough to see the top page. Bold letters, legal formatting, a line where a signature would go. Petition for guardianship, conservatorship. My mouth went dry. Under that, in smaller print, a heading that made my stomach turn. Capacity evaluation appointment. Date, time, a doctor's name, a clinic address. It wasn't a suggestion. It was scheduled like I'd agreed. My hand stayed steady. Years of measuring wood and leveling cabinets had trained them, but inside my head, pieces clicked into place like a lock. This wasn't about me being confused. This was about making it official. Because in America, you don't have to throw someone out to erase them. You can file them away. You can label them incompetent. You can sign them into a place with beige walls and locked doors and call it care, assisted living, guardianship, a controlled life, managed by the people who laughed about whether you should still be alive. And the worst part, they didn't plan to fight me. They planned to document me out of my own life. I set the envelope back exactly the way it was. Perfect, undisturbed, like I'd never touched it. Then I turned and walked back to my chair, still holding my champagne flute like I belonged. Trevor approached a few minutes later, smile wide, voice friendly enough for witnesses. "There he is," he said, clapping me lightly on the shoulder. "Hey, Dad, real quick, just need you to sign something." He slid the manila envelope onto the table in front of me, like a waiter placing a menu. "Just sign these so we can start the new year clean." I looked at the paper. Then I looked up at my son-in-law's face, bright, confident, sure of the world bending his way. My voice came out calm, almost polite. "Clean," I repeated, and that's when I realized they weren't celebrating the year ending. They were celebrating me ending. I didn't make a scene. That's what they wanted, a wobble, a raised voice. A "see? He's not stable," a moment they could point to like evidence. So I played the part they'd assigned me, the quiet old man, the tired one. I slid the envelope back toward Trevor with 2 fingers and lifted my champagne flute like it weighed 100 pounds. "I'm tired," I said. Simple, neutral, the kind of sentence nobody argues with. Emily was already watching, not worried, measuring. Trevor's smile twitched just for a second. "You sure? We can do it real quick." "Not tonight," I said. I stood up slowly, as if my joints were the problem and not their paperwork. I walked to the buffet table, picked up my cobbler dish, now cool and untouched, and wrapped it back in the towel. No one offered to help. No one said goodbye like they meant it. Emily called after me with that same bright tone she used for cameras. "Drive safe, Dad." I nodded once and left through the gate like a man exiting his own life quietly. In the car, I didn't cry. I didn't pound the steering wheel. I just sat for a minute with my hands resting on the wheel at 10 and 2, listening to my own breathing. The voice memo was still recording in my pocket. When I got home, I locked my door, set the cobbler on the counter, and turned the kitchen light off. The house was silent in the way it always was now. No Linda humming, no TV in the background, just the steady tick of time. I went to bed early, not because I was tired, because I needed the morning. The next day, I made coffee in my smallest pot. 1 cup, black, no sugar. I sat at my kitchen table and did the thing I'd avoided for years. I stopped pretending this would fix itself. I listened to the recording all the way through. Trevor's voice, Emily's voice, words like confused and protect and clean, the notary, the guardianship petition, the sentence that still sounded unreal even when it was coming out of my own speakers. Why is he still alive? I didn't rewind it. I didn't torture myself with it. I saved it, backed it up, emailed it to myself, 2 accounts. Then I called Denise Hart. Denise wasn't family. She wasn't a friend from church. She was an estate attorney who'd helped Linda and me update our will years ago when we refinanced. Sharp woman, early 60s. The kind of calm that comes from reading other people's disasters all day and never confusing drama with danger. Her receptionist asked my name. I said it. There was a pause, and then Denise came on the line herself. "Mark," she said, "what's going on?" "I need an appointment," I told her. "Today, if you can." She didn't ask why. She just said, "Come at 11. Bring whatever you have." By 10:30, I had a folder on my passenger seat. Bank statements, the POA copy Emily had brought me, my current will, insurance policies, and a USB drive with the audio recording. I drove like a man, obeying every speed limit because he wasn't giving anybody the satisfaction of calling him reckless. Denise's office smelled like lemon cleaner and printer toner. She sat across from me in a simple room with a legal pad and a pen that looked heavy enough to be used as a weapon. I slid the USB drive across the desk. "Listen," I said. She did. No facial expressions, no widening eyes, just attention. When it ended, she set her hands flat on the desk and exhaled once. "Okay," she said. "This is coercion, and the way they're framing your capacity, that's a classic setup." "So, I'm not crazy," I said, and it came out harsher than I meant. Denise looked at me the way doctors look at people who've been dismissed too long. "No," she said. "You're late to your own defense, but you're not crazy." She flipped to a clean page on her legal pad and started writing. "Here's what we do," she said. "In order, no improvising, no phone calls to them, no threats. We move like professionals." Her checklist came out steady, like she'd done this 100 times. "First, we revoke the power of attorney today. We'll notarize it here. Then we notify your bank, your doctor, and we send formal notice to anyone who's received it." I nodded. My coffee sat heavy in my stomach. "Second, we freeze your credit. Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. We lock it. No new accounts, no loans, no surprises. Third, we separate finances. If they're on any accounts as authorized users, we remove them. New logins, new security questions, alerts on every withdrawal." She looked up. "Have you ever given them access to online banking?" Emily had helped set it up after my fall. She'd insisted. "So you don't get locked out?" "Yes," I admitted. Denise's pen scratched the paper. "We change it all." "Fourth, we update your will. New executor, a professional, not family." I swallowed. It shouldn't have felt like betrayal to protect myself, but it did. Old habits die slow. "And fifth," Denise said, "we set up a revocable trust. Your assets flow into it. You remain in control while you're alive. Then you decide where everything goes. Charity, scholarship, whatever you want, but not them by default." She paused. "Now, about their house, the down payment." My jaw tightened. "I gifted it." "I know," she said, "but did you sign anything? Any agreement? Any note?" I hesitated, then said the truth. "Trevor asked me to make it official for taxes," I said. "Said his accountant wanted paperwork. A promissory note. And they recorded something with the county. He said it was just clean documentation." Denise didn't smile. She didn't need to. "That," she said quietly, "is not nothing." My throat went dry. "What is it?" "It could be a recorded lien," Denise said, "or a note tied to the property. Meaning, you may not be able to take the gift back, but you may have leverage, especially if they refinance or sell. They thought it was harmless because they assumed you'd never use it." She leaned forward slightly. "Mark, paper trails are power." Something in me loosened. Not hope, not revenge, just a sense of footing. We spent the next hour moving like a checklist was a lifeline. Denise printed a revocation form. I signed it in careful strokes. She notarized it, stapled it, and handed me copies like they were oxygen. "Next," she said, already dialing, "bank, then your doctor." By 1 o'clock, I was sitting in a glass-walled office at my credit union, changing logins and removing authorized users with a manager who didn't ask for gossip. By 2, I'd called my primary care clinic and updated my medical directive, making sure no one could schedule evaluations under my name without my consent. By 4, a locksmith was at my front door. He replaced both locks without questions. He handed me new keys, shiny and cold. When he left, I made 4 copies. 1 for my wallet, 1 for a fireproof box, 1 for a safety deposit box, 1 for my neighbor because I trusted her more than my own blood right then. That evening, my phone buzzed twice. Emily, then Trevor. I didn't answer. At 7, Denise called. Her voice was calm, but I heard the edge underneath. "They scheduled a capacity evaluation under your name," she said, "for next week. We're canceling it and documenting everything." I stared at my kitchen wall, at the spot where Linda's calendar used to hang. "Good," I said. And for the first time since that backyard, my voice didn't shake at all. Let them try to make me disappear. For the next week, my life ran on paper and silence. I didn't call Emily to argue. I didn't text Trevor to threaten. I didn't give them a single emotional clip they could stitch into some story about Dad spiraling. I let Denise do what she did best, turn fear into filings. And I did what I did best, show up prepared. That's why when Emily texted me the following Saturday, family meeting, please, we're worried, 6 p.m., I didn't respond. I just opened my safe and pulled out the folder I'd been avoiding for years. Not the old one labeled House Plus Loan. A new one, thick, clean, organized, copies behind tabs, my signature on the right pages, Denise's stamp where it mattered, the kind of folder people don't laugh at. I drove over at 5:55 with no dessert on the passenger seat, no peace offering, no warm glass dish, just a folder and a decision. Emily's driveway was full again, not as crowded as New Year's Eve, but crowded enough to feel intentional. The porch light was on, even though it wasn't dark yet. The living room curtains were open like this was meant to be seen. When I walked in, the furniture had been rearranged. That's how I knew it wasn't a talk. Chairs were placed in a loose circle like a support group. A box of tissues sat on the coffee table like a prop. Trevor's phone was face down beside it, too neat to be an accident. Emily stood when she saw me, smile shaky and bright. Trevor stayed seated, legs crossed, hands clasped like he was about to lead a prayer. There were people I recognized, Emily's aunt, my cousin Ray, a neighbor couple, and that same blazer guy from the party, now without the blazer but still with the posture. And off to the side, half in the hallway shadow, was Sophie, my granddaughter, leaning against the wall with her arms folded, eyes guarded. Emily took one step forward. "Dad," she said softly, "thank you for coming." I didn't hug her. I didn't scowl. I just nodded once and walked into the circle like I belonged there, because I did. Trevor started first, voice gentle, practiced. "Mark," he said, "we love you. We're worried about you." Aunt Linda, my late wife's sister, added quickly, "We just want you safe." The neighbor couple nodded like they'd been told what to nod at. Emily clasped her hands together. "You've been different. You blocked us. You changed things. You're acting like we're the enemy." Trevor leaned forward, lowering his voice like he was talking to a skittish dog. "And the bank called," he said. "They said I'm not on the authorized list anymore. That has to be a mistake." I placed my folder on my lap and looked around the circle. "No," I said, "that's not a mistake." The room went still in a way that felt staged at first, like they were waiting for the confused part. I opened the folder and pulled out the first document. "I revoked the power of attorney," I said, and slid a notarized copy across the coffee table toward Emily. "Filed, notified, done." Emily's eyes widened. She glanced down at the stamp like it might be fake. Trevor's jaw tightened. I pulled out the second set of papers. "My credit is frozen with all 3 bureaus," I said. "No one opens anything in my name. No one moves money without alerts. New logins, new security questions." The blazer guy, now in a sweater, shifted in his chair. He looked less like a helpful witness and more like someone realizing the script changed. Trevor tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "Dad, this is exactly what we're talking about," he said. "You're being paranoid." I didn't react. I pulled out the next document. "My will is updated," I said, "and the executor is not family, it's a professional." Emily's mouth opened, then closed again. "You," she started. I held up a hand, not aggressive, just final. And before anyone says the word confused again, I added, "Denise Hart is aware of your guardianship attempt. Everything is documented." That did it. Trevor sat up straighter. Emily's face drained a shade. "Guardianship attempt," Aunt Linda repeated, confused for real. Emily looked at Trevor like she wanted him to speak first. Trevor's smile returned, too smooth. "We were trying to help," he said. "You fell. You're older. We were being responsible." I let the silence sit for a beat, then reached into my folder and pulled out my phone. "I'm going to play something," I said. Emily's eyes sharpened. "Dad, don't." I pressed play anyway. My own recording filled the room, clearer than anyone expected. Trevor's voice, Emily's voice, their laughter, their words. Then it hit. Right there in my daughter's living room. Why is he still alive? The air changed, like oxygen got sucked out. Aunt Linda's hand flew to her mouth. Cousin Ray stared at the floor like it might crack open. Emily whispered, "Dad." Trevor cut in fast. "That's out of context." I stopped the audio with one tap. "No," I said calmly. "That's not out of context. That's the context." Trevor's face went red. "So what? You're going to punish us over one bad sentence." I looked at him. A sentence doesn't appear out of nowhere. It comes from a place. Then I delivered the part they still hadn't seen coming. I pulled out a clean page, the kind Denise prints when she wants things to look official. If anything happens to me, I said, everything goes to charity. Trevor blinked. What? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Veterans housing, I continued, eyes on Emily now. A scholarship fund at the trade school, and a women's shelter Denise recommended. Not you. Emily's face tightened. Dad, that's my decision, I said, and it's already in writing. Trevor stood up so fast his chair scraped. You can't do that, he snapped. I already did, I said. He pointed at me, anger breaking through the performance. You'll die alone. I let that land. Let everyone hear it. Let Sophie hear it. Then I said the truth, the simplest one. I'd rather live honest, I replied, than die managed. Emily's eyes went wet, but not with guilt, with panic. Dad, I'm sorry, she said quickly. You know Trevor gets heated. He says things. I didn't mean... I cut her off, not harsh, just clean. Don't outsource your cruelty, I said. You said it. He laughed. Own it. Silence. Then Sophie finally stepped out of the hallway shadow. Her voice was steady, almost bored, which made it worse, in the best way. Grandpa wasn't confused, she said. You were just loud. Nobody moved. Trevor stared at her like she'd betrayed him. Emily looked like she'd been slapped. Sophie didn't flinch. I didn't smile, but something in my chest loosened anyway. Not victory, just confirmation that I wasn't imagining reality. I stood up and closed my folder. One more thing, I said. I pulled out a sealed envelope and placed it on the coffee table. Trevor's eyes flicked to it like it might bite. That, I said, is a copy of the recorded lien and the promissory note you asked me to sign for taxes. Emily frowned. What are you talking about? Trevor's face went pale. I tapped the envelope once. It outlines repayment terms if you sell or refinance, I said. And if you try to play games with my name again, Denise will make sure it becomes a very public problem. I didn't threaten, I stated. Then I slid the envelope an inch closer to Trevor and spoke my final line like a gavel. New year, I said, new rules. I walked to the door. No yelling behind me, no footsteps chasing me down. Just a room full of people staring at paperwork they suddenly understood. And when I stepped outside, the cold air hit my face like relief. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a guest in my own life. I felt like the owner. 3 weeks later, I moved into a one-bedroom condo on the quiet side of town. Ground floor, big window. No echo of other people's voices in the walls. Just clean light and the hum of a refrigerator that didn't feel like it was keeping secrets. I didn't take much. A chair, a lamp, my tools in 2 boxes, and the photo of Linda from the year we painted our porch, both of us covered in white splatter, laughing like the future was simple. The first night, I ate toast standing at the counter and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Space. Sophie kept her word. She texted first, not with excuses, with truth. Can I see you this weekend? Just me. I said yes. When she came over, we didn't talk about Trevor. We didn't dissect Emily. We talked about school, about her wanting out, about what life could look like if she didn't inherit silence. The next week, I took her to my credit union. We opened a savings account in her name. Small deposits. A start. Denise helped me set up a scholarship fund through my trust. No drama, no loopholes. Just a clean path for the one person who showed up without a script. Emily texted twice. Long messages, apologies with explanations attached. I read them. I didn't answer, not out of spite, because some words don't deserve an immediate response. They deserve time to prove they're real. Here's what I learned. Silence isn't weakness, it's a boundary. And if someone doesn't respect you while you're alive, they don't get to own you when you're gone. If this hit you, like and subscribe. And tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there? Also, have you ever been treated like a ghost in your own family?